Back in 2018, there was a game that took over the blockchain gaming space by storm. It had everything going for it, from partnerships with large marketplaces to over $1 million in pre-sales. So how did everything go so wrong? And how is it connected to God's Unchained? Well, the story I'm about to tell you is one full of lies, empty promises, and incompetence. It is also considered one of the darkest secrets in God's Unchained's history. This is the rise and fall and redemption of Etherbots. Now, our story begins not in 2023 or 2021 or even 2019, but it begins in late 2017 with a game called CryptoKitties. Though I hesitate to really call it a game. Here's why. The mechanics were very simple. You bought 2 cats and bred them. That's the barrier to entry. New players had to buy cats. This in turn creates a cat with attributes from both parents. The new cat is entirely unique. It's a one of a kind. So what's the goal? How do you win? Well, there is none and you don't. No gameplay, no rewards, no tournaments, nothing. The only thing you do was sell your creation on the marketplace and hope one of the new players buys your cat. But remember, these cats are NFTs and all this is done on the blockchain. So every time you breed, buy, or sell, you're paying a fee. Around that time, 2 brothers from Australia watched everything that was going on and came up with an idea. What if we took the CryptoKitties concept and added a game mechanic? Surely that would take off. The name of the brothers? Robbie and James Ferguson. The name of the company they formed? Fuel Games. And the name of the game they created? Etherbots. The idea for the game was simple. You buy crates. In those crates are random parts. You can combine those parts to make a robot. With that robot, you can fight other robots. All the robots and parts are NFTs and can be bought and sold on their in-game marketplace. So that's the gameplay. But what about the reward system? Now hang with me, I'll try to make this as simple as I can. Well, according to our tutorial guide, Professor Okerbot, you receive shards after winning or losing a match. Losing will give you very low shards, while winning will give you a lot of shards. And with those shards, you can open up more crates. And that about does it for the reward system. But remember, making a game is expensive. So the solution? Make a pre-sale of crates before the game launches. That would give the company enough funds to get off the ground. And as far as I can tell, it was very successful. On February 7th of 2018, it would surpass CryptoKitties in transaction volume. So for the 2 brothers, it was a dream come true. February 15th, Etherbots announced an official partnership with Wax and OP Skins Marketplace. Now this is groundbreaking. OP Skins was the premier place to buy and sell cosmetics for CSGO. And they were currently looking to expand into trading NFTs, hence the partnership with Etherbots. Things were really looking up at this point in time. And on March 3rd, the arena opens up. Finally, players can start battling and playing the game. In late March, mobile is released and is even featured on the front page of the Trust Wallet app. In April 2018, the tutorial would come out. And after playing it, it looks fairly decent. I have the full tutorial and soundtrack on my second channel, if you're curious and want to check it out. However, May would be the last tweet on the Etherbots official Twitter page. Kinda suspicious, right? Well, let's check their Reddit page. Unfortunately, that's been removed as well. If we want to find the reason behind the downfall of Etherbots, we're going to have to take a closer look. You see, Etherbots was built with a lot of the blockchain in mind. In fact, I would argue too much of the blockchain. Remember how I was talking about the gameplay and the reward system? Well, I've been omitting something. The transaction fees. Now, it's normal for there to be a small fee for buying and selling on a marketplace. I mean, that's how marketplaces make money. But I'm not talking about that. This is what I mean. You want to open up a crate for rewards? Pay the transaction fee. Actually, pay 2 fees. One to unlock and one to open. You want to attack another robot? Pay a fee. You want to defend that attack? That's not free either. you have to pay as well. There's even a fee for using the training dummy. This is ridiculous. How are you supposed to get addicted to playing a game if you're constantly paying fees for every interaction? Now here I'm paying a fee of about $8 for this transaction, just to do the tutorial. So if I were to go through with playing the game, I could see myself having to spend $50 to $60 per gaming session. Of course, I could get something valuable from a crate and sell it off to offset the cost, but those chances are very slim. Now, to be fair, Ethereum is much higher now than it was back in 2018, so the fees weren't as high. Though I did check the Discord and found people were still paying around $4 per transaction. This, of course, was due to high gas fees at the time. But I think the final nail in the coffin is the mandatory need to buy parts. You see, you complete the tutorial, you aren't given a free-to-play robot or anything. Instead, the tutorial guide gives you a list of the cheapest parts on the open market to buy. So yeah, I don't know how people thought this would catch on with such a high barrier to entry for new players. I mean, how are you supposed to convince players to play? Hey, you not only have to buy your starting parts, but to do pretty much anything else, you're going to have to constantly pay fees. So it's no wonder that the player base immediately died after a few months after launch. And this pretty much concludes the rise and fall portions of this video. But trust me, we're just scratching the surface. Do you remember the reward system I mentioned earlier? You open up a crate, receive rewards, then you can either sell those parts on the marketplace or scrap them for shards. Either way, your goal is to use shards to buy more crates, in hopes of getting the rarest item. Well, here's where some of the controversy began. The scrapping part. You see, despite what the name implies, scrapping your parts doesn't actually destroy them. It sends them to a wallet instead. Normally, you can send NFTs or crypto, or in this case, parts, to wallets without a key. And because no one has access to this wallet, in practice, the stuff you sent there is gone forever. Burned. However, the wallet that the parts are being scrapped to was directly controlled by the developers. And they had complete access to that wallet. And what did they do with these parts? According to the developers, they took the parts and listed them on the market in a Dutch auction format. So that basically means that when a part enters the market, it starts at a really high price and then falls down until it gets sold. Eventually, it becomes the lowest priced part. This is bad. Like, really bad. Oh, before I forget, I'm showing messages from the official Etherbots Discord. And Etherbots is James Ferguson and Not Cricket is his brother, Robbie Ferguson. So, let's get back to it. Okay, so I know a lot of my viewers have played Gods Unchained, so I'll make a comparison. Imagine combining 5 normal meteorite cards and getting a shadow card. Then the Gods Unchained team takes your 5 cards and sells them on the marketplace at the cheapest price. And if you still don't see anything wrong with this, I'll put this as simple as I can. You're competing against the developers when you're trying to list your cards. They literally have a bot that goes to the lowest price until it gets sold. And as long as players keep scrapping, they'll keep listing. As you can imagine, there was some outrage when people learned about this. I checked the white paper they released. No mention of this kind of listing stuff in there. And the announcement that introduced scrapping? No mention of it either. It was only in a post by James did players even know this was a thing. So not every part scrapped would go back to the market. It was only about 40% of them. But after the initial uproar, the burn rate was up to 70%. Before finally getting pushed to a full 100% burn. Now, I do have to give credit where credit is due though. They did make a channel on the Discord for there to be a discussion on the scrapping debacle. I would really love to see their arguments and justifications there. But it looks like somebody deleted that channel. Very clever. Any further evidence is now gone permanently. And so ends the scrapping saga. Do you remember the OP Skins marketplace? The announcement with a large market or whatever? Well, it's a sad story as well. Basically, OP Skins was a large market that bought and sold cosmetics. mainly from CSGO. However, after seeing the potential for profit on NFTs, they decided to try and dip their toes in that market as well. That's why they partnered with Etherbots. Unfortunately, it turns out that building that kind of platform is hard. Therefore, there were some delays. According to James, everything was ready on the Etherbots end. They were just waiting for OP skins. Again, months would go by with no news. Fortunately for the players, new OP skins themed parts would drop around April. As for the marketplace integration, that would have to wait. Finally, in June of 2018, big news would come out from OP skins. They were getting shut down by Valve. Basically, they were given a lawsuit for violating one of Valve's terms of service. After that, the website would never recover and would fully shut down in early 2020. This would also be one of the reasons why the Immutable marketplace was created. Oh, and it was named Immutable because Fuel Games had changed their names to Immutable back in 2019. I would be lying if I said that Etherbots didn't care about their top users. And there are two players I want to introduce. One is called Light Demon and the other is called King. Let's first focus on Light Demon. According to him, he spent over $20,000 trying to get the rarest item, the Golden Lamborghini, or Lambo for short, with the developers implying that this part will be the rarest item and would have some advantages in the future. Unfortunately, that was not the case. A few weeks after the pre-sale, a new part was introduced, the Ancient Protector. During a certain time frame, players would be able to try their luck for one of these parts. I personally counted about 11 golden Lambos in the game. As for golden Ancient Protectors, none were ever open. So yeah, it turned out to be much rarer. And let's just say, Light Demon wasn't very happy. Imagine spending that kind of money on an exclusive item just for a newer, even more exclusive item to be introduced just 3 weeks later. I hope you can understand his pain. So what about King? He came a little later, but around the same time. But he immediately started trying to take Light Demon's top spot. Judging by his Discord chats, he seemed to really enjoy the game and seemed to be one of the most active players, until the very end. And he eventually surpassed Light Demon for the top spot. Very impressive. But there's another reason why I wanted to tell you about these two players. Before Gods Unchained released their first Genesis packs for sale, a card was made to thank these two players. It was called Light Demon King, made by combining the two names of these players. It is something very few people know about. You can look at the card now, but just know this. It's not a very good card or very valuable card. So yeah, thanks for spending all that money during the pre-sale. We made a card of you as thanks. I mean, seems like a fair trade to me, right? Oh, and here's something else that was promised to top players. An airdrop of tickets to the 2019 World Tournament. And I don't really have time to explain everything. That's like a whole nother video on its own. So I'm going to simplify everything as quickly as possible. Back in 2018, the Gods Unchained team announced that they would host a world tournament in early 2019. The prize pool ran up to over $500,000, and tickets to participate in this event were given out with each Genesis Legendary pack. The number of tickets were fixed at 10,000. However, the tournament never happened. But the tickets were real and they were worth quite a bit of money on the open market. And here is where the top players were told that they would receive tickets for free. And judging by their responses later on, they never received any tickets. And here's some more sweet talk about how they were going to incorporate some Etherbots stuff into the tournament. You know, just more empty promises and stuff. So just in case you're asking why would people still be willing to play this game, even with the large drop of the player base and a bunch of missed deadlines, well, it's probably because of one promise in particular. In July of 2018, an announcement was made. Fuel Games was officially funded with millions of dollars. But the big news that kept everyone hooked? Etherbots 2 was in the works. And good timing too, because by this point the player base was completely dead. Only a few remaining diehards were left, like Light Demon and King. But this announcement really gave players a lot of hope, and the developers were more than happy to talk about it. They talked about current Etherbot parts moving over to Etherbots 2 and stuff like that, though they couldn't give an exact timeline for its release. But they did say it would fix the problems from Etherbots 1. Like all those transaction fees? Yeah, it would get rid of those. In fact, they were so confident that they even released screenshots of early gameplay for Etherbots World Arena. That's the other name for Etherbots 2. See, there's nothing to worry about. And as Robbie says right here, the funding that they received is going to go to Etherbots 2, as well as their other projects, at the same time. And they have a runway to build it alongside Gods Unchained. But according to James, they don't want to give too much information because they will spoil the surprise. And then time passed. From days that turned into weeks, that turned into months. Finally, there was confirmation though. Almost a year later, in June of 2019, Perks, a former Gods Unchained team member, confirms that Etherbots 2 is in the development. I mean, that's good news. So let's fast forward and see what happened. Yeah, that was the last response in the Etherbots Discord by an official team member. Nothing. It's been years and no answers. They straight up lied about it and even gave fake screenshots that the game was in the works. It's sad, really. The developers didn't even have the decency to say that the game was cancelled or delayed or something. No, the players were just left in the dark with no answers. But the players would at least get something out of this. I guess we can call it some redemption. Basically, it started off as a conversation between Light Demon and a few other players in July of 2018. You see, there was a sense of abandonment after Fuel Games had announced that they were working on Gods Unchained. But don't worry, James Ferguson comes to the rescue. This is all FUD by one of the chatters. Don't worry, we'll compensate y'all by airdropping y'all some great stuff. This great stuff turned out to be an airdrop of Etherbot cards, which are obviously cards that can only be used in Gods Unchained. There would be 14 cards in total. Okay, that sounds great, but when will they be received? Well, here is a post that says it'll be done by the end of July. But if we go to early August, we see James move the date. He states that an approximate timeline of 12 days for Etherbot cards to drop. Of course, 12 days later, there's a delay. However, James does give a sneak peek into the art for one of the cards, as a kind of a teaser and, sorry. And again, time passes and James once again claims that the promotion is coming, but they're going to time it with the release of Gods Unchained's beta. So until then, sit tight. Then finally, in early November of 2018, James announces that Etherbot card redemption will be available in late November. In mid-December, James finally responds. Redemption has been delayed, but for good reason though. If they do something, they want to do it right, and it is targeted for the end of 2018. In early January 2019, James makes another announcement. He gives some details on how the promo works and stuff like that. But most importantly, he gives a real time frame. It's coming in 30 days. But for real this time though. Gotta trust me. Fast forward 40 days, and James brings up the promotion again. But it's not ready, it's almost done. Fast forward again. Finally, on March 19th of 2019, Etherbots Redemption is finally open. Only about 8 months after being first announced, and with the player base already being long gone. All you have to do is go to a website and claim your packs. And here's some good news. There's no time limit. So if by some chance you had some Etherbot parts in the past, but you left the game, you can come back whenever and still claim your packs. I mean, I think that's fair. Considering how long this promo has been drawn out, I would hope that the time frame would at least be the same length of time as the delay. To me, that's only fair. So after months of waiting, how valuable were these cards? Not that good. You see, I wasn't around back then, but I checked some of the messages and it seems that these cards weren't really that strong. But why does this matter? Well, it matters because if they're not that strong, that means it doesn't sell for that much on the market. If you spent hundreds of dollars or even thousands of dollars on Etherbot parts, it's possible you only got tens of dollars worth of cards for the promotion. A few months later, around November of 2019, the Etherbot redemption page will be taken down for being buggy. In December, Alex would say that the timeline to reopen the redemption will be a week later. However, according to the following messages, it wasn't. Weeks go by, followed by months, followed by years, until finally, a little over 3 years later, an announcement is finally made in 2023. Redemption will be open. Well, not really redemption, but an airdrop of cards into wallets with Etherbot parts. Though this was most likely done because one of the Etherbot cards was ridiculously strong. But in order to nerf it, redemption had to be reopened. Or at least that's the reasoning that was given by the Unchained team. So after the airdrop, some cards were buffed while others were nerfed. The buffing and nerfing caused a whole nother controversy that I don't have time to get into. Just know that Copper got mad, made a post, then Band of the Wolf was released, and everybody forgot about it. And nothing has happened since. And so ends the era of redemption. So now you know its full story. So this brings up a couple of questions. Was Etherbots a scam? Was it a rug pull? Is this fraud? I think the answer is complicated. While the Ferguson brothers didn't actually scam anyone, they did make a lot of promises and failed to deliver. And when they did deliver, it was nowhere near a timely fashion. They constantly led players on about new projects and items that were always coming further down the line, and each time a time frame was hit, the deadlines just kept moving further and further, to the point where 5 years later we can safely say it has been abandoned. Do you remember the IMX marketplace? The marketplace that the devs have been working on the whole time? It doesn't even support the buying and selling of Etherbot parts. If we fast forward to today, we can take a step back and take a good look at the Ferguson brothers. Their combined net worth is over $1 billion. Very successful. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Etherbots would have been a huge hit if it was marketed correctly or something. I'm just saying that although Gods Unchained is Immutable's flagship game right now, it was only possible due to the empty husk of the Etherbots game. Because I doubt that if the pre-sale wasn't as successful, that investment from Coinbase would have never have happened. And while there is some compensation with the redemption feature, it was introduced 8 months too late, then shut down 8 months later. And it was only reopened years down the line after enough complaining by the Gods Unchained players. So, do I think anything will happen? Will this video change anything? Probably not. The Ferguson brothers are billionaires, and by this point most players have accepted their losses and moved on without realizing they've just been given new cards. So what can you do? So what does this mean for Gods Unchained? Can we as the players trust anything they say? Well, hear me out. Robbie and James Ferguson stopped working on Gods Unchained a long time ago. In fact, it's been years since they responded in the Discord. And all I can say is good riddance. In their place, they left Chris Clay in charge. And while I do have some very strong opinions towards him, I have to admit that he has brought the game pretty far along. But hold on, don't panic just yet. There is hope. You see, back in late 2022, there was a stale meta followed by a huge dip in the player base. Yes, dark times, I know. As a result, a lot of team members were fired, and even Chris Clay got promoted to a different role. His replacement, Bathlix and Daniel. And with his introduction, I have seen things that I never thought would come. Trinkets and boards being moved to the marketplace? Done. Mini set with new seasonal themed cards and trinkets? Also done. Mobile? Something that's been in the works since 2019? The alpha version came out earlier this year, and different game modes supposedly coming out next quarter. And dare I say, I think I believe them. I can only hope that they don't prove me wrong. Maybe this isn't the happiest ending ever, but it's all the hope a skeptic like me can give. So until something else comes up, I'm the Outlaw, and new videos every month. Later. I mean, come on, guys. There isn't anything else that could possibly be as controversial as Etherbots, right?